Let's fight. Let's fight, people. Let's fight. Let's fight. We got a lot of stuff happening out there, folks. So we got to fight. Wherever you guys are joining us from this evening, we are privileged to have each and every one of you with us. And folks, we got to fight. We got to fight. We're going to wait until we have some more folks joining us. We're getting through to our YouTube stream and our Twitter stream and our Facebook stream, the ghetto, the suburbs, the the Bel Air and the Pradoville of social media. Good to see you folks joining us. And as soon as we get the thumbs up from our technicians that we are good to go, we have quite a few people lined up behind the scenes. And we did say to you guys whether we feel we had enough to come on air before Monday evening, we were going to do so. And tonight is your lucky night because we know how the in the ring junkies are. Can't get enough. And we aim to please. We aim to please folks. So good to see each and every one of you. We welcome you. And again, we have a couple of our folks who are lining up to join us in studio. They're already backstage. And as soon as we get through to the places we need to get through to people, we are going to be live with you guys and get the program rolling again. Good to see so many of you. Good to see so many of you joining us this evening on this Saturday evening. I look a little too bright, but we're going to live with it. Better a little too bright than too dark, ladies and gentlemen. Better we are a little too bright than a little too dark. So we're going to work with what we have, and we are going to wait for what we want. So again, as you guys come on, and as we wait for the others, we're going to invite you guys to share the live stream, share the link to WhatsApp. You don't even need to come on Facebook or YouTube. Once you have the link in WhatsApp, you can watch the program right there in WhatsApp. And so again, good to see you guys joining us. As soon as we get through to the places we need to get through to, we are going to be off and ready to go. Again, good to see you guys. Good to see all of you, wherever you guys are joining us from. Wherever you guys are joining us from this evening, we are very, very privileged to have you guys. And, we're on and some folks are trying to call us. We understand. We understand they want to be part of what is happening. And they probably see us in air and want to know what's happening. Well, join us in air and you're going to know. Guys, again, welcome, welcome, welcome. Wherever you guys are joining us from. Let us see who we have joining us here this evening. I see Brian Abrams is joining us on YouTube and Tommy Gibbs joining us on YouTube. I can see some folks in the background putting on their makeup in the studio and so forth, making sure the hair fixed correctly. I see some people doing a blowout in the studio, in the virtual screen, putting on eyeshadow and all of that. And if I had put on so I wouldn't be shining the places I'm shining. But we're getting better, folks. We're getting better, and good to have all of you with us. Again, wherever you're joining us from this evening, we are so privileged to have you guys in the ring with us tonight. And as you come on, wherever you guys are joining us from, Tommy Gibbs and Brian Adams and all the others, we crave your indulgence and ask you guys to share the live stream wherever you guys are joining us from tonight. So again, good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. Hope you've been having a good weekend thus far. We are getting through to some of the other streams. And again, as soon as our technicians give us a sense that we are good to go, we are going to be ready to fight, people. Ready to fight. Good to have each and every one of you. Good to have each and every one of you with us this evening. And we're mixing things up on the program. We are mixing things up, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that as we go along the line. As we go along the line, we are going to be bringing more programming to you, and we are going to indeed have a program called The Weekender, an in-the-ring program called The Weekender, ITR Weekender, in the ring, ITR. It's a Weekender, so don't think it's strange. Again, folks, you're coming on, join the live stream. As you know, if you've been checking the status, we're talking about the reopening of school. Ready or not, here we go. Ready or not, here we go. And I have quite a few folks who are joining us tonight. Quite a few folks who are joining us. And again, as soon as we get the okay from our technicians to proceed, we shall proceed. And I think we're about there. We're about there, folks. Let's fight, folks. Welcome in the ring officially, wherever you guys are joining us from, at home here in Guyana, or whether you're in the diaspora. We welcome you. Region 11, we welcome each and every one of you. Tonight we're discussing, as I said earlier, on the reopening of school. Ready or not, here we come. And just today, folks, we have some breaking news that the COVID protocols that are currently in place, the government has added to that. The government has added to those protocols that are in place, and as if we didn't have enough happening already, they have decided to make a broad sweep. They said if we're going to protest them, let us protest for a reason, right? They want to lock we down, we're going to lock them out. And so almost every place you have to go now, private and public businesses, private and public schools, you have to now produce a vaccination card or a PCR test. And so we're learning and we're picking up this bit of information out of news source, Uncle Gordon, Big Uncle Gordon, that the government, less than a week after the government issued mostly unchanged COVID-19 protocols, it has amended Section 17 of the guidelines, which dealt with vaccination requirements for government buildings to now include all public buildings, including, as I said, privately owned ones and institutions of learning. So again, a broad sweep at what is covered in these COVID protocols. Folks, I want to invite the guys I have backstream this evening. And as you come on, we invite you guys to share the live stream. So I have with me the opposition chief whip, Christopher Jones. And I think I want to bring Chris on a little dramatic fashion. So let's welcome our colleague Christopher Jones this evening. Oh, I do have Dineshwar with us also. MP Dineshwar Jaiprashad. Good to see you, MP Christopher Jones, opposition chief whip, and I have also with us MP Viceroy Jordan. This is a big cast this evening. Viceroy Jordan, and I do have also MP German Figuera. Welcome, fellas. A very good evening to each and every one of you.
Yes, good night.
Hi, good evening, Sharon.
Let's fight, folks. Let's fight. And, politically, Chris, let me direct this to you. They would ask, let's fight. They would ask for gender balance.
Yeah.
I see it's an all-men panel, but I know we might have some of the ladies joining us later on in the program. So, Chris, let us start with you. I know German had a big program on this afternoon there, a virtual town hall of sorts, and we're gonna touch on that, dealing with much of this issue. Chris, tell us what is happening here with this amendment to Section 17 of the COVID-19 protocols and regulations.
Right. All right. Good night, Sharon. Good night to your viewers as well. Well, let me just quickly say that we're expecting MP Coretta McDonald and MP Chirita Fernandez to join the feed before the conclusion. Now, Sharon, as you mentioned earlier, the People's Progressive Party Civic, despite the many calls of concerns, not only by the opposition, by civil society, by the populace, as it relates to the vaccine mandate that is out there. The People's Progressive Party Civic ignore all requests for consultation by the unions, by all of these bodies. The People's Progressive Party Civic ignore the complaints, the concerns raised by the citizens. And what they sought to do is impose further restriction and mandates on the people. Now, as we know from this afternoon, or as of tomorrow morning, if you, for example, have an emergency that occurred over the weekend, and your intention is to go to a commercial bank tomorrow, let's say you have a family emergency, somebody who is in the hospital or needs to leave the country or whatever the case be, and you need to make urgent withdrawal of cash, unless you are vaccinated, the banks can now impose restriction on you unless you're able to present a vaccination card. As well, it goes for every private business that operates out there, every single government agency throughout the length and breadth of the country. Now, we spoke about the dictatorial tendencies of the PPP. There have been absolutely no consultation, none whatsoever, by any department, any agency, any government official, and so forth. And now we have these draconian measures that have been imposed upon the people. I can only predict what is going to happen throughout the country tomorrow. I can see conflict at private places, especially if persons have business that they have to conduct, and perhaps they started those transactions before and want to conclude them tomorrow. You see, the PPP imposes this on the people, and they are least bothered about the consequences that will come hereafter. Now, for example, those businesses who have been suffering over a year during this pandemic because persons were not able to spend as much as they would like them to. And now that these mandates have been imposed, if those businesses are to implement those mandates, it simply means that you are saying to the general public that come boycott me. Because if, for example, the people who support your business, whether in wholesale or retail, happens to be the largest number of people who are not vaccinated, essentially they can't come into your place to purchase. Now you are in the business for business. And if this restriction is going to restrict people from coming into your business to pay, then you will have an economic problem that is looming. And that is just some of what we expect that is going to happen tomorrow. There have been a statement issued by the APNU AFC by Mr. Roysdale Ford earlier this afternoon, which sets clearly the APNU AFC's position. And even before we get further into the program, Sherrod, I would just want to reiterate that the APNU AFC supports vaccination, but it has to be on an individual's choice. After a person has acquired sufficient information and he or she is comfortable, that person can go and be vaccinated. We do not support mandatory vaccination on anyone. It must be the choice of an individual to make.
Fantastic. I know there's lots of confusion across the board as to what is happening. There's the COVID protocols that are causing a lot of confusion, especially what has happened recently with the amendment of Section 17. And then you have the reopening of schools that is totally chaotic. I don't think there's a parent who understands what is happening. As a matter of fact, one parent who spoke with me early on in the day says her child is going for face-to-face learning one day in the month. I mean, that seems a little odd to me, but one day in the month for face-to-face learning, whether that is sufficient or whether it's negligible, whether it's even worth it, is a question for parents to answer. But again, lots and lots of confusion where this is concerned. I know both Viceroy and Dineshwar are in Region 5, Region 6. Guys, tell us what's happening where you are there. And then we're going to Region 10. I have MP Devon Sears has joined us, ladies and gentlemen. Go right ahead. In any order, 5. Let's take it that way. Viceroy.
Right, Sherrod. So thank you very much, Sherrod. Good night to your viewers. Sherrod, it is quite ridiculous to see just about 4 or 5 hours ago, complete order coming to say that the public places, schools, hospitals, your private places of business and places of worship, you now have to be vaccinated. And like I said when I was with the teacher, Sherrod, I want to make it very clear on the outset. I am not against vaccination, but what I'm against is the way in which vaccination is being rolled out, or the process in which this installed government used to roll out this vaccination. And to impose it upon people and forcefully have them vaccinated is very much wrong. In Region 5 tomorrow, I can see from now that there will be a number of staffers who will be caught unaware. As a matter of fact, they're already caught unaware. They will be locked out from their workplaces. I can see nurses and teachers. I can see public servants and civil servants going to the places of work and only to be told that they cannot enter.
Yeah.
But what is very, very, very much sad, Sherrod, is that these people have to now present a PCR COVID-19 test, which has to be negative every 7 days. And that the average cost is about $20,000 to $25,000. Which public servant works that amount of money to take 4 COVID-19 tests per month? It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I believe as of tomorrow, Guyana will be in some amount of chaos. I can see people in the public transport being in chaos, people in the health sector being in chaos, people in the public service, be it in the ministries, in the regional offices, at the NDC offices, you name it. It's chaos, it's confusion because people don't really know what is going on. And for them to now come and say to people, you gotta be vaccinated in order to go into a place of work, I think, man, it's outrageous. You have Frank Anthony and the other 3 ministers, they have lost it completely. I believe so. The other 3 health ministers, they have lost it. And to know that this has been passed into law or has been granted as a law for these people, for the citizens of Guyana, I think that the installed president also has lost it completely. I don't think he is in the same country that we are in.
Tomorrow, for all intents and purposes, it's not the reopening of school, it's National Lockout Day. So
it's national
Lockout Day. Right ahead.
Good evening, brothers. Thanks for having me on your program tonight. I would say that Region 6 will be having some different treatment because we know that since the implementation of the strict COVID measures and so, there has been a relax of the stringent enforcement of the COVID measures in region number 6. I want to say that all Guyanese must take note as to what this administration is doing to us. People must be able to understand that this government is oppressing the poor people of this nation. Sherrod, I want to say that probably these guys didn't take the language into context when they were crafting this piece of document. Mm-hmm. You know, there is some misinterpretation with the words when they use public building. Probably they didn't understand that this will have a rippling effect on their supporters more than our supporters. Because here what happens. Public building, according to this gazetted order, states that any building where people go for business, meaning their boys will suffer, the business entity will have to close down because they will not be able to say to the people, you must have a COVID pass before you come to do business with me. You know, who will deal with the chaos in the banks? You telling a poor man that you cannot go to withdraw 20,000 because a child is in the hospital, or you want to buy some medication for somebody who is sick and you cannot go to the bank without a COVID pass. This is not democracy. This is infringing on people life and well-being. So correct. I'm saying that when you craft a legislation, a law to say that all public spaces, it means then that you are restricting people in a democratic society. This is not a communist state whereby one man wakes up tomorrow morning and say, hey, we do this and everybody must follow. This is a Republican country. This is a democratic nation whereby we are all equal citizens and we have a democratic right to sit and to decide as to what happens to us in a country. As it relates to school, in Region 6, a parent indicated to me today that her child will be going to school 1 day per month. So there is something wrong here. You are sending a child 1 day per month to school and you're exposing this child on that 1 day to COVID. You are sending this child one day to school for the month of September or October, and you are putting this little baby in a position that he or she can come back home with COVID. Are we so crazy?
Yeah.
Are we not thinking rightfully? Are we not taking
Yeah.
people's lives into consideration?
Yeah.
All of us are parents, and we know how it is very, very hurtful to see your child not well. And you're opening up a system to say a 6-year-old can go to school one day just to show the world that here what happened. Guyana open up school. Somebody need to look at what is really happening and put some sense into the system.
Yep. It is total confunction nonsense. And with that, folks, Ms. Coretta McDonald has joined us, and I want to welcome Coretta. She's a member of parliament, and she's also the general secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Those folks who are now joining us, let's fight, people. We are discussing the reopening of schools and these new COVID measures as well. It seems it's confusion powder everywhere we go. The COVID numbers are skyrocketing thanks to the ineptitude and incompetence of the PPP. We look at them and we see their faults. We see their fumbling and their failures. For instance, my attention was drawn to a farmer's cash grant give out in Bath settlement. You know, hundreds of persons are gathered there because the economy is bad, things tight, and people want the money. So they turn up there. There are no COVID protocols. You don't have to present your PCR test. You don't have to present your blue book. So as Dineshwar says, it seems as though these COVID-19 measures, they are applied conveniently and selectively. I know that Devin, you guys are doing a great work there in Region 10, and tomorrow you guys had already planned a lockdown, and today, just this afternoon, you guys had a good virtual town hall meeting. Tell us your response to these new COVID measures and what you guys are aiming to do at your end there, Region 10.
All right. Thank you so much, Sherrod, for having me on this program. I am speaking on behalf of the folks in Region 10. Just to jog your memory a little bit, when the pandemic first broke out, Linden was the first town in this country that took action, especially through the municipality, and we did our shutdown starting, that was last year. That would be sometime around March, April. We did our shutdown. Also, we did the sanitization of the market, the public spaces and everything. And then we started putting ourselves into a task force. And then, of course, with the caring government that we had, APNU plus AFC, they used that model that we had and formed it into policy and gazetted orders, and then we established curfews and so forth. Anyway, fast forward to what we are experiencing right now. We're in some dark times, Sherrod and fellow MPs, because our nurses have been locked out across the region, healthcare centers, the hospitals, even in Kokwani, they've been locked out. Our nursing school students, first year, imagine that they're only making $17,500 in stipend, of which they have not started to get as yet. But they're being told that unless they have a PCR test worth $25,000, then they can gain entry, and they have to produce that every 3 days. So we've seen that, and then now with the gazette order that came out, whereby private institutions and so on, businesses have to accept a vaccination card or a PCR test. You know, it puts us in a very tight position. And I'll even go further. In Kokwani and Sub-Region 2, which is heavily dependent on logging, they are now being told that they have to produce a PCR test or a vaccinated card in order to even have a simple stump inspection. Or else the lumber cannot pass the forestry station. And that is what is happening within our region right now. Things real tight. So what we did, this is a follow-up to what we did a couple of weeks ago. We protested with the nurses for 3 days, and then the protester decided to block the bridge, and then that forced a response out of the minister, of which gave it 2 weeks for them to be vaccinated. We did a follow-up protest on the 25th of August. And now today we had a residents meeting of where we had hundreds of persons taking part, and they shared their views. And tomorrow we're heading into a full lockdown of the region. So what this means is that all our stores, businesses, services, everything is going to be closed off from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And what we're asking persons within Guyana who want to head to the interior or even to Georgetown is respect or Londoners respect the residents of Region 10, upholding this lockdown from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that is what is happening tomorrow, and that is our stand against forced vaccinations here in Region 10.
Yeah. And, I just had Coretta with me. Well, I have Coretta with me, Coretta MacDonald, Member of Parliament and also General Secretary of the Ghana Teachers Union. And I, in my own mind, Coretta is a fighter, is a warlord. And I heard Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, that fellow, he said you got an ambitious cohort of teachers. Y'all want fancy vaccine, y'all want Pfizer. He said if y'all want Pfizer, y'all go and source it for yourself. Y'all go to Dalmood Al Maktoum and get your Pfizer vaccines, or else you don't get nothing. And I was privy also to a voice recording that came out of Region 7, where one of the educators there said to teachers, you either show up to school with at least your first dose or stay home and you'll be getting no pay. What is happening?
Sherrod, good night to you and good night to the entire cohort there, as well as your viewing audience.
Ambitious cohort.
We have to be ambitious, because we create all professions. And so it's the reason why we can make demands. Like I said earlier today, there isn't any legacy that Leslie Ramsamy, my geriatric friend, that he has left while he served as Minister of Health back then. The only legacy he has is that of approving the importation of that spy equipment. That's his only legacy. And so he's jealous of teachers. And, when you hear those kinds of statements, you just throw them in a corner because they absolutely don't make sense and they belong to the bin. That's for Leslie Ramsamy. With regards to that education officer, he really doesn't understand what he's dealing with. Maybe he getting some of the medicine that Leslie Ramsamy drinking. He really didn't understand what is happening. Because if teachers are not vaccinated and they can't go into the classrooms, then you'll have no school. So what is he going to do then? Is he going to tell the parents, your children can't come back here? That is what he's going to do. I mean, these people are all confused. They just don't know what to do. All of them, you check it. From the chief education officer right down. And mind you, the chief education officer is the officer that is approved by law to make announcements with regards to the opening and the closing of schools. And have you noticed? He doesn't say anything. You know who's the chief education officer, the proxy chief education officer? Priya Manik Chand. She's the PS, the CEO, the DCO, the everybody. She alone talking. But I'm saying all of this to say that there's absolutely no plan from the Ministry of Education with regards to the reopening of schools. What we know is that, like everything else, Priya is very pompous. And that's what she wants to show people out there, that she can open the doors of schools, regardless of whether you're putting people's children's lives at risk and their health. Just to say to you quickly, we have St. Gabriel's Primary, at least 2 teachers are infected with COVID. Golden Grove Primary on the East Coast, the head teacher and 4 others are infected with COVID. We have Starters Nursery, teachers there infected with COVID. So those schools cannot be reopened tomorrow. What do we do there?
Yeah.
What is going to happen? Mind you, these teachers from especially Golden Grove Primary, they were all at a workshop last week. So it means it's not only 5 or 6 persons from that school. It means we're talking about a whole set of teachers who were intermixing with each other. Now, if they don't go and do their test, then they can be spreading COVID from one person to another person to another person. Now, this is the kind of madness that we want to see happen in the education sector. More madness. We are bringing out to schools tomorrow 3, 2, 3, 6, 3, 9 years old children, nursery school children. We're bringing out to schools tomorrow. In light of all that is happening with this COVID, Those are the ages we are bringing out to school. And you and I would know nursery school education is not compulsory. So why are we pushing and opening the doors for nursery school children, especially for those children who are coming to school for the first time? And you know what their parents were advised? That you bring the children, drop them off at the gate. Now, my child, and I'm just using this wild example here, my child going out to school for the first time. He hasn't been out of the home to be in a learning environment. The first thing that that child is going to do is to start crying. What do? Just leave my child at the gate and hope that some teacher or teachers will take care of my child? And we're saying to teachers that you need to stay your distance apart. What is really going to be happening in those nursery schools? We have seen, in addition to those issues, we have schools in the hinterland, way out in Region 7. And the same regional education officer who's talking about what is not going to happen and teachers must turn up if they don't turn up with a first dose, that same office is closed because the 2 education officers are on leave. And there's no access to that office. So I don't know what he's really saying. Teachers right in Upper Mass have complained today that those schools have not been sanitized as yet. And you're talking about having a first dose? Those schools don't have anything with regards to materials. And you're talking about teachers presenting a vaccination card. I mean, Israel, Sherrod, Chris, Dinesh, Jordan,
Devin.
and
Devin. Yeah.
It's madness, and more madness.
Confusion
And
powder.
tomorrow we'll have a good laugh tomorrow.
Because
we'll have a good laugh.
yeah,
Especially
and with that, I
in
want, yeah.
district number 10, region number 10. Let me hear the education officer there tell the teachers tomorrow that because they are not at school tomorrow, he's going to be holding their salaries. Let me hear you tell them that.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, as a have you, GS, with the teachers who are going to be locked out, you got teachers who are on leave because they were helping students, I think, with grade 6. So a lot of teachers on leave as well. Do we have enough teachers to man students who will be going to school tomorrow? Do we have enough?
Well, you know,
that's a concern for parents.
I know the answer, but I'm sorry that we don't have Priya here because she seems to know everything. She knows about 50% vaccinated. She knows that schools are ready. And look, now she's throwing up on Facebook a nursery school. The furniture fully painted and they got teaching aids. This school is ready for the reopening. That school is ready for the opening. That school, but she's not showing us all the schools. And that's why I demanded this morning that we see the data, post the data on Facebook. Let's see how many schools are ready. Tell us now, I want her to tell us now, how many teachers have been infected with COVID from the various schools and what would happen in those schools. That's what I want her to tell us. But like everything else, it's going to be confusion in our schools tomorrow because as long as you lock the unvaccinated teachers out of schools, then you're not going to have enough teachers to man the classes in school. So the children will go home eventually.
Yeah, I hear you there. Fellas and GS, I want to ask you this. You know, we see what is happening. This broad sweep of lockouts coming tomorrow. Tomorrow is National Lockout Day. We had the installed president, the catfish, Irfaan Ali, you know, made a statement during the week that left, again, a lot of people with more questions than answers. We were puzzled. He's like an enigma, you know, a dream within a dream, a puzzle within a puzzle. This is what he said. I want to get your response to it. He says, we have not made vaccination mandatory. What we have done is to say that in order to secure people who are vaccinated and have a safe work environment, and part of labor relations is to have a safe work environment. If unvaccinated persons have a greater possibility of creating an unsafe environment, then you have to make decisions. Now, I think I need like a justice or the whole panel from the CTJ to just unpack that for me. Anybody take a stab at it and share it like people as you come on. Go right ahead.
if I may jump in right there. So essentially, what Irfan Ali said there
Tell us.
comes on the heel of what Priya Demonic Chan said earlier, that parents are illiterate. So essentially, Irfan Ali, speaking after that statement, believes, as well as Priya
He has
Manik
confirmed
Chan,
it. He has confirmed it.
that as far as the PPP and himself are concerned, Guyanese are illiterate. And therefore, he could make a statement like that, and to him, it makes sense. Now, Sherrod, it brings in the question about the fact that persons who are unvaccinated could be infected with COVID. Similarly, persons who are fully vaccinated could be infected with COVID. Like case in point, you posted earlier, the secretary to the clerk of the National Assembly, who is fully vaccinated, tested positive for COVID-19. They are 2 staff members, reporters of the National Communication Network, NCN, who are fully vaccinated, and both of them have tested positive for COVID-19. These measures, these draconian measures, essentially says that by virtue of I having a blue book, I can walk into any public space, any public building without a negative PCR test, when the science has already showed us that if you are fully vaccinated, you can still contract COVID-19, and similarly, you can spread COVID-19. So you have a situation now in which persons who have a blue book become somewhat of a diplomat, that he or she could walk into any public space. And lo and behold, some of those very persons who are fully vaccinated are infected with COVID-19. So you have persons who are fully vaccinated who are spreading COVID-19, just as persons who are unvaccinated are spreading COVID-19. And what you find happening too is in many of the ministries and government agencies and places of which they believe that all of the staff are fully vaccinated, they have somewhat of a lapse of the COVID protocols. There is no 6 feet distance. There is no necessary wearing of masks. There's no necessary washing of hands, because all of those persons believe that I am fully vaccinated, so therefore I don't have to do that. I can't get COVID. And whereas the science has shown over and over that persons who are fully vaccinated can contract and spread COVID-19. 2 days ago on CNN, I can't remember the state, they were bringing to light that well over 200,000 people in this particular state who are fully vaccinated happen to, all of which have contracted COVID-19 and were spreading it as well amongst their family members, just the same. So even in the schools that's supposed to be reopened, and teachers who turn up who are fully vaccinated could be, as Greta pointed out earlier tonight, about those teachers from those schools who are COVID positive. Who are COVID positive. And I'm getting the feedback. So you can have a situation tomorrow that those schools, those nursery schools, and teachers who are fully vaccinated could be COVID positive, because they don't have to do a PCR test to determine their status. So they believe once you have a blue book, you good to go. And they could be COVID positive. They can spread COVID amongst all of those nursery school children or any school children. And all of those children can then take that back home to their family. So it is the same 6 for 9. And if the People's Progressive Party Civic was serious about fighting COVID, they should follow the science. The science said so. When you look throughout the Caribbean, there are several of the Caribbean countries that have so far suspended the reopening of schools until 2020, 2022, and so forth. The only Caribbean country thus far that has not done so is Guyana, because Guyana believed that we got something different from everybody else. And that is the challenge as it relates to infringement of people's right. Now, there is law that protects a person in terms of their health status. Nobody could demand from you to say, listen, let me see your negative HIV test. Nobody can say to you, let me see your negative chickenpox test, or whatever the case be. And it is a similar infringement on people of requiring, let me see if you're COVID-19 positive test or not. It is an infringement. In Florida, the senator there has just enforced a law that any business, any government agencies, institution of learning and so forth that requires someone to produce a COVID-19 negative test result or to produce their fully vaccinated card, those institutions can be fined up to $5,000 US.
Yeah.
It is that strong, except in Guyana. So this whole thing about come with your blue book and the mean you're good to go, people who are fully vaccinated in Guyana presented a blue book could be COVID positive. Case in point, the secretary to the clerk of the National Assembly, the two reporters at the National, the speaker, the two reporters at the National Communication Network. Now, this is what happened there at the Parliament. All of the staff members of Parliament who are fully vaccinated, all of them now have to go into isolation, and they too now have to go and do a PCR test. Mind you, all of them are fully vaccinated. That is the reality.
And we also have more folks who have died being fully vaccinated from COVID-19, but the government is not letting on. I know most of us here are parents, and I know lots of parents have felt very, very forced into the Pfizer vaccine, accepting that for their children because they want the children to go back out to school. Every parent wants their children to learn. You have working parents, and as G.S. McDonald said on an earlier program that we had, you know, you have working parents, the challenge of having a child home unsupervised and all of that. You know, it has become tremendously challenging. So everybody wants their children to learn. Everybody wants their children to pursue their education. But we see, for instance, in the UK, they have shunned away from this Pfizer vaccine for children. We seem to be heading down that road in full force. And as parents ourselves, you know, I saw another parent pull out on social media just this week, and I want to get your response to it. And for those folks who are now joining us, we want to encourage you to share the live stream. We want to get this information as far and wide. Share the live stream, and we want to see those emojis as well. So this is one parent, Tamika Prince, and I want to get your reactions to it, team. And the parent says, Tamika Prince, had a PTA meeting this evening for the reopening of nursery schools. And let me tell you, this Priya Manik-Chan have zero knowledge of what she's doing. The HM and teachers are as lost and confused as parents are. A lot of questions were asked, and the HM said the Ministry of Education haven't provided the answers as yet or would have to advise. And apparently, the government thinks all children are 100% healthy. No consideration was given for asthmatic children, sinus, or health problems. Parents that are working or have more than one child. Nothing. We are just going next week to drop the child off at the gate and hope for the best. Your thoughts? Jurita, as you are new, let me show you in.
Good night, Sherry. Good night to the viewers. It's craziness. I can further share the complaints that I've been receiving also as it pertains to parents checking in as to the what the actual system is going to be at the school that their children are at. I can tell you that one parent was completely upset because she said she went to the school and she saw some teachers there and she was trying to get information as to what is the timetable like for her child, and the teacher was not even willing to give that information. The teacher seems very much like she was not in tune with what was going on at the school altogether, and this is something that keeps repeating itself. The teachers don't know what is going on. I had other complaints. I know a lot of persons have been asking when it comes to the secondary school that date has been pushed back. However, there is the case with the secondary school at North Rumville. Now, that particular school, we know that there was a fire and so forth, and I can say the persons have been saying that they're not getting any information concerning what are the guidelines for that the teachers will be using to deal with students that are actually registered at that school either. So there's a lot of talk, a lot of chatter by the ministers and about what we should be doing as parents. And I said we because I'm a parent. I have my child. I have a 15-year-old. I can say that I have not subjected my child to take any vaccine as yet, because I am most skeptical about having my 15-year-old child take a vaccine that I personally don't know what are the side effects of that vaccine as yet, and how it's going to affect her in the long run. And that's not something I'm going to be jumping into at all. Now, I wanted to say out front that we have been saying that we support vaccination, but we also support the concept of having a freedom to choose. And I must say, Sharon, at this point, I know Chris spoke about it some bit also, but it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense what the government is seeking to do right now at all. At no point in time did the government come out and say, we're asking you to be vaccinated because of XYZ, and give an actual strategic, analytical methodology as to why they want to force people to go out and get vaccinated. And as Chris rightly said, and we've been saying, we've been at pains to educate the public as to the fact that being vaccinated does not stop you from getting COVID. Being vaccinated does not stop you from spreading COVID. So the fact that and we have some very contradicting policies going out there, because the policy as is saying that if you are not vaccinated, if you cannot present that card, then you have to present a negative COVID test. It is most ridiculous, because it gives the perception that vaccinated persons cannot contract COVID-19, which we all know that would be a blatant lie. And it is completely on, I think, the government at this point in time, they're just clutching at straws. I do know that we've been dealing with the PPP for such a long time that I trust absolutely nothing they do, and I believe that every single thing they do, they have an underlying agenda. And as we can clearly see, being vaccinated does not stop the spread of COVID-19. So the agenda here is not to stop the spread of COVID-19, and putting a perception out there to the public that vaccinated persons are safe to go and socialize, they're safe to go to work, they're safe to enter buildings with large number of persons and so forth. You are inevitably giving the perception to the general public that once you're vaccinated, hey, it's okay, and this is just going to be a fix for the whole pandemic altogether. And that is not true. I believe definitely that people, this is 21st century, everyone is educated as to what COVID is, how it could be spread. We have no one that is stupid. And I can tell you, Sharon, I dare say that over 90% of the people that are vaccinated are persons that just went and get the vaccine because they need to go out and transact certain business, or they need to secure their job and so forth, because they know very well that when they take the vaccine, it doesn't stop them from getting the virus. And I must say that taking the vaccine protects you personally. It does not protect your mother, your father. It doesn't protect anybody in your household. It doesn't protect your friends that you're associating with or so forth. So there is no real benefit. There's no real reason for you to go out there as a government minister and to give the perception that when you take this vaccine, it's going to be good for the country. No, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be a personal benefit to you. And then we have to acknowledge also that there are persons with conditions that cannot take the vaccine. And Cheryl, let me tell you this, as a woman, I can say that it is a major concern for persons that young women out there, when they go take this vaccine, persons ask them this broad question on if they're pregnant. You know, at no point in time are they asked to take a pregnancy test or anything like that to make sure that they are safe to take this vaccine before they actually take it. But nobody's asking you about whether or not you have a certain illnesses when you go. They're just administering the vaccine. No one is checking, most importantly, to see if you already have COVID when you are taking this vaccine. There's a whole lot of nonsense going on out the country. I mean, let me say this, and I think I speak for I think I can have the agreement of the entire panel here tonight if I say, had this vaccine been a remedy to stop the spread of COVID-19, we would all be on board with it. We would all understand that well, we need to force people to get it, but you cannot force somebody to take something that is not going to affect anyone else but themselves. And I want to bring in the comparison that we have some people, because of religious beliefs, do not take certain things. We have systems in place when it comes to the human right activisms and all of that. We have persons, people have the right to say that if they are dying, then they should not be resuscitated used by any methods used by the hospital and so forth. It is the same thing with COVID-19. Me taking the vaccine only benefits me. So why are you forcing me to take something to benefit only me?
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
complete hypocrisy. I noted the statement that you read from the president and what he was saying, and I addressed this in a program last evening, and I must say that I believe, and I would call once again on him to retract that statement, because it is a completely false statement. There is no scientific evidence backing that statement, and further, all the scientific evidence out there goes against everything that was said by the president. Again, I said, as a head of state, you cannot go out there and give the perception that if you are unvaccinated, you are a more danger to society than someone that is vaccinated, because it is complete ludicrous. It is uncalled for anybody to make such a. It's an irresponsible statement. It's a malicious statement. It's a vindictive statement. It's just the government going out there and trying to give a reason. They're trying to justify the unjustifiable. So they need to just go and say any load of nonsense, for the better
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
at this point in time. But we're smart, and I expect tomorrow, and I dare say this, Sherrod, all of those newly listed areas into the COVID regulations that came out. Now we have the banks and all of these other places. Let me tell you something. That is not a mechanism, that is not a method to deal with an economy, especially one of the magnitude of Guyana. We depend on transaction of business on a daily basis to keep this country moving forward. We do not have a pool of wealth in which we can just dig into if persons stay home for a week or a month. It cannot work like that. So when you are forcing persons to stay home and to try to safeguard their very existence in some cases because of their illness and their inability to take this vaccine, we will see the decline in this economy with those measures. The further decline, I dare say. Cost of living is skyrocketing. Let's see what it's going to be like at the end of next week. Let's just look at it and see what it's going to be like at the end of next week. At least the government not change these draconian measures that they are trying to employ.
Very well, very well. But I'm excited about this new weeks. And folks, German and Vinceroy and Devin, I want to ask you guys in particular, in context of GS and the opening back of school, we're getting feedback from somebody. By her ambitious cohort, are we ready? I mean, I saw snakes in school. I think in one instance, a giraffe. I saw bees. I think I even saw a dinosaur. Are we physically ready? I know at Belladrum, I saw a school at Belladrum that's in bad shape. I saw a school with bees in Linden. We're in bad shape. Are we ready for the physical reopening? I saw some students go to drink water from and to wash their hands. Ain't looking too healthy at all. Are we ready physically?
If I can take a jump with this, good night, Sharon, and to the panel and the listening audience. Happy Indigenous Heritage Month to my colleague, Jaretta Finance, and all our Indigenous brothers and sisters across Guyana. Definitely not, Sharon. We're not ready. I mean, the proposed vaccination program by the administration in itself is testimony to the fact that we're not ready, because the plan is not properly in place. There's no proper system in place. Now, you would have seen last week, I believe, the government would have gone in several schools, I think on the East Coast. And the amount of people that showed up, they didn't have enough vaccine for the population of the school. So that in itself tells you that something is afoot. So um, I don't believe they are. And the question is, you roll out a vaccination program. Do we have sufficient vaccine to give the additional jab that is required? And I have to ask that question because we cannot trust this government and the information that they give. What we still have a lot of question concerning the Sputnik vaccine. We have a lot of people right here in Region 10 who would have taken the Sputnik vaccine and are still awaiting the second jab. And then for those who are a little more confident in the Pfizer vaccine that the government seems to have a lot of confidence in also. In the US, they're talking about booster shots. What is the government's plan for booster shots for the persons in Ghana who will be taking these Pfizer vaccines?
More lockouts.
That's a question that has to be answered. So, with regards to readiness, definitely not. And the bees that you are talking about, Sherrod, is a primary school in Linden, in Amelis Ward Primary School. Those are actual bees, live bees that has a nest that is flying around the classroom. The water disposal for the kids to drink water. You see grass growing it inside of the the water prepared station for the kids. So that in itself are evidence that the government isn't ready for the reopening of school. And if the minister and more so the Ministry of Education don't know what to do, it's all right. Nothing is wrong with not knowing. But you could look right in the region, your sister Caribbean region, and see what it is that they're doing. You have to reinvent the wheel. This is a pandemic that is affecting every country in the world. So if you don't have a plan, just look to see what your neighbor is doing. And if it is working, then run with it. Barbados has a very good plan. The Minister of Education in Barbados, they are rolling out a gadget program where they are providing gadgets for all kids. They are providing training for the parents who are going to be at home to render some form of assistance. Why is it that our government don't do the same? Because if we are going to be on a virtual platform, which is most ideal until the government could actually put a proper system in place for the reopening of school for face-to-face conduct. Ensure that all of the students, all of the teachers have these gadgets. Ensure that schools in the interland communities, all of the ICT hubs that we, while we were in government, put around this country, ensure that they're working, ensure that you establish some more and provide data for those households that has more than one kids, so they ensure that they have an opportunity to learn on the virtual platform, especially the kids in the interland communities that don't have the opportunities as the coastlanders, especially with access to data. Ensure that you make it possible, and that is why we would have started the initiative with the ICT hubs, where communities could actually have access to readily available internet. So there's a lot of thinking that has to be put in place before school actually reopen, and forcing people will not work. I agree with Christopher Jones, who brilliantly articulated the view that being vaccinated doesn't preclude you from contracting or spreading COVID. And if you are going to demand a PCR test from the unvaccinated, then the demand should also be for the vaccinated. And more so, I agree also with Jaretta. Our economy is not one in which you could demand from the public to take a vaccine, or else you can't have access to the services from government or private entities. That is totally absurd. We're living in an economy, and in our reality, we don't have 50% of the population vaccinated. So most of the businesses that are operating, their customer base are the unvaccinated. Now you're saying to them they can't have no business if the unvaccinated cannot present a PCR test or present a vaccination card. What madness is this? I mean, it's evident this we are in a conundrum, and more so, this pandemic is not being properly planned and properly managed, rather, by this administration, and it is because they have failed to recognize the importance of the opposition, the importance of the trade unions, the importance of more stakeholders coming at the table and have a national conversation so we could have general consensus of putting and eking out a plan that could actually benefit the population. Now, when we talking about education of this COVID and the vaccination, the various vaccine, Sherrod, we must also take into consideration the reality that is on the ground, where persons who would have contracted COVID, many of them recovered with natural remedies. So this has to be a part of the conversation as well. And that is why we are having a large amount of vaccination hesitancy, because people have real life testimonies from people close to them, their family members, their uncle, their aunt, their brother, their sister, people, their colleagues who would have contracted COVID, recovered in less than a week. These are real life testimonies from COVID victims. So all of these things has to be factoring in a national plan of how we address the issues that is affecting the community as a result of COVID. And I'm happy that the opposition has stated their position very clearly, very definitively, that we are not against vaccination, we are against forced vaccination. And that is why we in Region 10 has made a decision as a collective, as a people, to stand up and defend our rights. And we are calling on all our residents to support this lockdown that we have tomorrow, 6 to 6. And we encouraging all of the rest of Ghana, the listening audience who are a part of other regions in this country, to stand up and defend your rights. That is the only thing you have, and you should defend it to the letter. So to answer your question, no, Sherrod, the government isn't ready, and that's because they don't have a plan.
Not ready. Jeremy, please mute for me. Vintroy, what's happening at your end? I pointed out Belladrum when I saw some photographs there. Didn't seem to be up and ready for the opening tomorrow. And we are just past program time, the allotted hour for our program. I'm going to come back after Vintroy to ask your thoughts individually for 30 seconds. Your thoughts to teachers. Tomorrow is a big week. Either way, students going out and the public who are going to be locked out in lots of instances from doing business and accessing certain services. Vintroy.
Yeah, Sherrod. I'm happy that you asked the question. So let me just wrap up with Region 5. I believe that there is no plan. That is my belief. The ministry has no plan with regards to opening of schools, how they will do it, and what is the system in place to do it. I can tell you one of the most important things for the schools is sanitization units. And in Region 5, I receive a number of complaints that the schools lack sanitization units. They lack potable water, running water at some points, and the schools were not sanitized. And so tomorrow school should be opening and schools were not sanitized. So tell me, when will the schools be sanitized? I don't know whose part that fault is to be laid, but I know for sure the ministry has no plan when it comes to reopening of school, Sherrod. And to wrap up, to the general public, I would want to say to the general public, don't be bullied. People have their choices. Make the choice that you think is best. As again, I will say I'm not against vaccination, but understand the mechanism of the vaccine, understand what you can do with your body, understand whether you have underlying conditions and such, and make your choice. And let us stand together as Guyanese, be it in Region 5, Region 10, Region 7, Region 8, whichever region, and let us oppose forced vaccination and dictatorship in Guyana. Thank you, Sherrod.
Sherrod, if I could jump in right there, because I know it's a special program, so you're going way beyond the 1 hour, because I see your viewers are in tune and they want the information. So we probably going right up to probably 11 o'clock if necessary. But quickly, let me throw this out. Now, we must take cognizance of the fact that Guyana initiated its vaccination program in the month of March. We are now in September. We have seen figures from the PPP, which indicates at one time it was 380 something thousand people vaccinated, and then at another time over 400,000 people have been vaccinated. To date, we have not seen, like what we saw in the US and the various states, that whereas their infection rates used to be like 200 persons per day, and after the vaccination program started, you saw a decline, or what all of the countries were working towards, which they call the bending of the curve. The strangest thing ever in Guyana, that we started vaccination since in March, and we are now in September. And to date, we have not seen a decline of infection rates in any region.
They throw the curve.
Too, that you know, exactly. The other thing that we note of a lot of concern is the sharing of data, sharing of information. The PPP to this day, Frank Anthony to this day, the waste that he is, cannot show us that here in region 1, the infection rate per day, per week, per month, this amount. Since the vaccination program would have started in that particular region, there is a decline. There is no data, no data whatsoever to show us what is happening in every region. So that as a people, you now could draw from that yes, indeed, look, region 4, for example, have over 100 and something thousand persons who have since been vaccinated. And since then, the infection rate in region 4 has reduced. We're not seeing that. So it begs the question that if March, your infection rate was about 200 persons per day or per week, and from all of these months that we have been vaccinating people, and now the infection rate is 400 and 500 and so on going on. So what? So therefore, the vaccine, is it that the vaccine isn't working? We have seen an increase in deaths. Now, Frank Anthony, a few months ago, said that he is unaware. This is after the WHO published that the Delta variant is in Guyana. Frank Anthony at that time said he's unaware of that. And then all of a sudden last week, as you rightfully mentioned on your program, Frank Anthony said we are in a Delta surge. So we move from Frank Anthony saying that he is unaware of Delta variant being in Guyana, so that we are in a Delta surge, and that is the reason for the increase in deaths and infection and so forth. I said all of that to say simply, listen, the PPP believe in dictatorship. They believe that they govern with an iron fist. They believe that they don't have to consult anyone, because according to Priya Demonic Chan and her president Ali, all of the Guyanese are illiterate. And therefore, the PPP don't see no reason to share any information with a bunch of illiterates as far as they see the Guyanese people. And that is why this same information that I said, that we have not been seeing coming from them, we haven't seen any decline in any region. All we're hearing that 400,000 plus people have been vaccinated. Now we move to the children. And the right question that Jermaine has just asked, booster for Pfizer is required. And you saw Joe Biden and his wife recently went and took their booster shot. Therefore, in Guyana, these children who have taken the Pfizer vaccine, after they take the second, they will have to be a booster shot. What is the plan in place to deal with that? And it begs the question again, unvaccinated people and vaccinated people equally 100% contract COVID virus and they share COVID virus. Now, the persons with underlying conditions in the early stages of the vaccination were urged that if you have an underlying condition, you should go quickly and get this vaccine, because it will reduce the severity of the infection and it will not cause you death. Lo and behold, last week, we saw 2 persons who are fully vaccinated died as a result of COVID-19. Then Frank Anthony jumped on the television to justify it. Oh, they had underlying condition. So therefore, in a nutshell, he has said to all of the people across this country who have underlying conditions that they were urged to go and get the vaccine because you have an underlying condition is that if you get COVID-19 again, you can die. And the reason that you die is because you had an underlying condition, even though you went and you're fully vaccinated. So the science is all over the place. Essentially, the PPP sees Guyana or Guyanese as the guinea pig. And therefore, they have said to these pharmaceutical companies and so forth who are bringing the vaccine here is that, yeah, you bring Pfizer, we could give them Pfizer. Them children, we will give them Pfizer. You bring Moderna, we give them whatever you bring, we will give them. And we will share with you the data, how many dead, how many badly wounded, and so forth. So Guyanese right now, under the PPP, we are the guinea pigs. We are the testing ground.
And we ain't having it. We ain't having it.
You see Trinidad, you see Barbados, you see St. Lucia, and those other governments have taken a position that the people of the country will have to make that choice.
Yeah.
They have refused to make it mandatory. I mean, Mayor Motley, after what she did with the last election here in Guyana, no friend of mine. But you have to give Jackie Jacket and Mia Shuskert. Because when Mia addressed Barbados recently, and she said that, listen, if I, as Prime Minister, have to go house to house, door to door, and convince every Barbadian that they should take this vaccine, she is prepared to do it. Now, that is what you call leadership.
Yeah.
Whereas these jagabats, Irfan Ali said that the Guyanese people, this is how these people cuss out Guyanese left, right, and center, you know.
Yeah.
They give you a good cuss. Irfan Ali said that Guyanese who have not taken the vaccine are worse than COVID. Mind you, COVID-19 killed over 1 million people across the world, and Irfan Ali is saying that the Guyanese who are unvaccinated, you're a killer just like COVID. And then Priya Demonic Chan calls the other Guyanese illiterate. Now, rather than consult, meet, discuss, literally the opposition, the only thing probably left to do the opposition is to beg, of which we're not prepared to do. But when it comes to the Guyanese people, we will continue to reiterate our position that we have views and we can share with you our technical skills. We have support base. We have our constituencies across the country, and they wouldn't listen to a PPP, but they will listen to an AP and UFC representative. Give us the information. Let us sit with you. Let us go through the data. Let us satisfy ourselves so we could go and knock door to our supporters and people and say to them, this is the important. We don't have any information.
And because we know Irfan can't go door to door. Don't let me fool myself. Irfan might make a 2-door or 3-door, but Irfan can't go door to door. Chris, that being said, I know some of us have to run off to get set for tomorrow because tomorrow is a full day. So I want to get some of the other thoughts very quickly. I see Dineshwar has left us. Let us get Dineshwar thoughts. Here he is again. Dineshwar, your final thoughts. I know Chris has the energy to go till 1 o'clock. That's when you're young and you're unbridled. Dineshwar, what are your thoughts in closing to the Guyanese people? A big week in front of us here.
Yeah, good. But before I get to that, I want to reiterate a point, which Sister Coretta made mention earlier. According to our education laws, 3901, nursery education is not compulsory. It is a choice that parents, can take homeschool or send. Right, good. So why is it that we are pushing for these little babies who are not in the compulsory scale of education to go there and to expose themselves? That is one. Two, why is it that we are giving vaccine to the secondary children and we are not opening up the school for them? So something is definitely wrong here. I want to say something that I see that the entire COVID situation is not being played fairly because my brothers in Linden who are in the logging business, they are expected to have their card. But my brothers who are doing the rice business are not expected to have their card. Let us be fair.
Beautiful.
Let us be fair. Let us be fair. Let us use one measuring stick across the country. Let us do not clamp down in Region 10 to say we locking out nurses and we open up Amsterdam, Port Moran, Blackbush, and Skelling Hospital free for all. Let us be fair. And that has been my call since I have become a member of parliament. Let us use one measuring stick for all Guyana.
Equity, fairness.
Let us, right, good. Before I get to my next week activity, I want to say that because of the pressure from the opposition, a lot of names that were left out from the flood relief appearing back themselves now on the list. So we must continue. We must continue to ensure that this magic happens. You know, they're playing after with names. The people are smart these days. Because of the technology, people are sending information to us. And I want to say to the policymakers, to the ministers and those guys, people watching you. People watching you. People taking note. This time is not on time, buddy. People watching you. So to the parents who will be sending the children to school, I'm saying to you, your child is your best asset. No one will take care of your children better than you. Do not expose your children to sickness and death. We have preached for vaccination. We have begged people to take the vaccine, but it is your choice. I'm saying to parents, if you cannot prepare your child for school with a face mask and the shield and the distance and the sanitizer, do not bank on anybody to prepare the system for your child. We know if a year 1 nursery child busts out in tears, who gonna wipe his eye? Who gonna hold it to sit? Who gonna take it from the door? Or if you rush to the gate, who gonna touch him? Who will hold him? Who will bring him back inside? So it is not a play game that we want to do. It is not a playpen that we're playing with people's lives. This COVID situation is serious business, and we do not have systems in place. I heard Dr. Frank Anthony said we do not have the medical facilities to cater for Delta.
You did say that.
Why are we exposing our people to further disaster? That is my take. So I'm appealing to parents, my parents out there, be sensible, be cognizant. You must realize that your children are your most valuable asset. They cannot be replaced. They cannot be replaced. So think twice and do what is best. Thank you.
Very well, Dineshwar. In any order, Coretta, it is your day. Your cohort of ambitious teachers are up tomorrow to bat. Coretta, let me help you.
Exactly how we think and what we're going to do. But I just want to say to our teachers tomorrow, you're supposed to be out at schools. Turn out to schools tomorrow, because like everything else, teachers are motivated because of the love they have for their children, not because of that meager salary that they receive, because of the love that they have for their children.
And definitely not because of prayer.
Teachers are always working. They're always finding some ways and some means of making their children excited, making the lessons exciting, getting their children involved. And so when you hear these jagabats talk all kinds of foolishness, you just leave them at the foot of IFLT University, right there on the west coast of Demerara, wherever it belongs. But I want to say to our teachers, turn out to work. Of course, you have to be there at 15 minutes before the time. So you turn up there for work at 15 minutes before the time. And if you're prevented from entering your schools, then you know what to do. You can have your classes right on the school bridge. You can have your class right next door to the school. And so we know what we will do. Let the building stand there. Priya Manik-chan can come and walk in the building. Efron might pass through or some one of them. But we teachers know what they have to do. Turn out to school. Just want to say this very quickly. We are talking about reopening of schools. And today I saw on the west coast of Berbice, and I think, Sherrod, you did make mention of it, 2 schools on the west coast of Berbice, Bath and Ithaca Primary, where we saw loads and loads of parents going out there to collect the flood relief monies. Who vaccinated and who not vaccinated. Now, what time would they have had after that event to clean those schools? So you see here, we're talking about being ready for school, but we know that they're not ready for school because, of course, to bring the cleaners out there, you can get a slam dash thing that they clean the school. So our children are left fully exposed to the mercies of anything that pass across there.
Yeah.
Now,
Point
we
taken.
saw the same thing happening. I just sent you some pictures from Amelia's ward, and that was the state of Amelia's ward as of today. Apart from the bees, a whole lot of grass around the place. But you know what? Priya said in an earlier statement that the reopening of schools will take on an individualized approach. I never see madness so, because you're going to take on an individualized approach, everybody. So I could reopen tomorrow. Somebody else can decide to reopen 2 weeks from now. Somebody else open 1 month from now. Somebody else open sometime. But at the end of the day, our children have to write a national exam.
Which means they're closing in the same way. They're closing the Christmas term in the same way.
Now, who caters for the
January?
Who caters for the lost time that our children are going to be having? Now, I think you remember too when I spoke about the $19,000 school grant, and I said rather than giving a little raise to the parents under the guise of school grants, that school grant should have been properly thought out. Chris, you will remember that because we were on a program. It should have been properly thought out. School grant, school material. And I said then that the Ministry of Education, they should have gone out there to get tablets and fully load them and give them to the parents. I have 5 children. You present me with 5 tablets. Because look at what is happening. What is happening here right now is that tomorrow's children are going to be out in school. And let me use North Georgetown Primary because my son is at North Georgetown Primary. North Georgetown Primary grade 2. He's going to school for 2 days. The next 2 days, he is at home because the other half of his class going to school for the next 2 days. They're going from 9 to 1. Fridays, they're not going to school yet on Fridays because the teachers have not yet been given any instructions with regards to what happens on Friday. So it's Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. Now,
2 days school week.
What happens in between those 2 days? Now, if the children don't have a gadget, I've not heard the teacher yet saying that she's going to be sending them work via online. Because remember, she's going, while they're at home, she is still going to be teaching. Correct. So my child now is my burden. Then why am I sending my child to school for 2 days and 3 days? It is my responsibility to ensure that my child is engaged. I've seen other parents sending notes to me to say, my child is going to school 1 day per week. In the nursery schools, the first years are going to school 1 day, in some instances for 2 hours. Why waste time to do that? Now, you're not only wasting parents' time, but you're wasting finances because some parents got to use transportation.
Correct.
Like I said earlier, we recognize, according to Frank Anthony, that we're having a Delta surge, but yet there was no thought of having a conversation. I guess these people don't like conversations. They only like to talk in their little pockets. They don't like to engage. There was no conversation with the minibus association or the police traffic department to say, look, we are planning to reopen schools. We don't want to put our children at risk. And so we're asking the different zones to come on board. And we're going to identify, we're going to put a special tag on these buses, school buses. Of course, the children are going to pay their regular fares and so on, the government not paying it. And those were some of the things that I think the government should have embarked on, paying the fares for the children. No,
or the David G buses. David G buses.
If you continue to use the David G buses, I saw Priya saying, oh, the talk about David G buses is 31 old buses for how many thousands of children. But she didn't remember the boats. She did not remember the bicycle.
Priya herself is an old bus. Priya herself is an old bus.
I didn't want to say that because I didn't want her to say again that I'm attacking her. But
I'm saying it.
There was no thought about how our children are going to get to and from school in the midst of this Delta upsurge. Outside of that, we are going to be inconveniencing so many parents because of nursery school. You're dropping off your child for 8 o'clock. 2 hours. By the time you get into work and you start settling down, you got to come out to go and pick up your child. Now, where are you taking that child? It could only be 1 or 2 choices you have. You either go and drop that child home, or you take the child to work with you. Craziness. Madness again. Your child at your workplace.
Total confunction
your
nonsense.
child at your workplace being exposed to all kinds of things. So again, there is absolutely no plan with regards to education,
That's the PPP.
the reopening of school, and that is simply saying to us, Priya has never been in a classroom to stand there to hold a piece of chalk. So she doesn't understand anything that happens in the education system. What she knows to do is to go in the classrooms to talk about Sherrod Duncan and Coretta McDonald and maybe Christopher Jones and somebody else. Apart from that, she doesn't, she's far and failing when it comes to the business of education. But my parents out there, you're not illiterate parents, and I know that you're going to make the right choice when it comes to the business of your children and whether they go to school or not go to school. Because I can tell you, if teachers are unvaccinated and they can't get into school, your children are left at the mercies of COVID and whatever else happens in the school. Who go to the pipe, wet up their skin, who take off their mask and give it to somebody else. So parents, let me advise you. If your child's education is delayed for 1 more term, your child would not die. But if your child goes in there and contracts COVID, the possibility exists that not only your child, but your entire family can be seriously affected by the COVID virus. And so all who are listening out there, I just saw a little thing from Republic Bank advising that based on the gazetted order, people can't go into the banks. And so I gonna have to advocate that we go there, stand in front there and tell them, look, come to the door. Just give me back, give me my money.
They might
I
have
don't
a
want
run
to
in
be
the
a
bank.
part of your bank anymore.
They might have a run in the bank
just
tomorrow.
give me my money. You're standing outside. Let me get my money. I don't want to be a part of your bank, so I don't have to come to you. No, you know what they're going to be encouraging here with all this foolishness? Because like we always say, stricter the government, wiser the population. People can start banking back home, you know, under the mattresses, and so people can start keeping their monies. So I don't have to go to you for you to ask me for any blue book, or for you to ask me for any test, or for you to tell me I can't come. I
or
got my money.
sample or a blood sample. Correct.
And that will cause these very banks, it will cause them to have to shut their doors, because when they can't do business, when people not coming to do business with them, they can't pay staff, they can't do all the foolishness. And even more than that, I am dismayed, I am disappointed, and I'm upset that we're not hearing anything coming from any of the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I call them ambassadors. Not a word from them. I'm not hearing anything coming from CARICOM. And I'm wondering whether Guyana has now been thrown under the bus, just like we throw our Haitian brothers and sisters. It is hypocritical, and people must speak when it's time for people to speak. Unless they wait for when the Guyanese people start making a whole lot of noise, and we start, I don't want to say it, but I can say it, start burning the roads and blocking the streets, and then you're going to come to tell us, oh, this shouldn't be so, and you're coming to offer help. No, we're going to chase you then. We're going to block the airport so you can't come down the road. It is very, very disgusting. We will not allow this kind of dictatorship in this country. Our foreparents fought this already. Burnham and Jagan, they fought for this country to be an independent country, and we ain't taking slavery and dictatorship business anymore.
Correct.
Guyana is the guinea pig Guyana is.
Even I got Jurita. Let me get your final thoughts, and we wrap things up.
Right. Thank you very much, Sharon.
And then I beg you for some money. Great.
All right, good. So tomorrow, Region 10 will be fighting, and we are standing up against the man. We are standing up against dictatorship as a region. We believe that we have the right to choose, and what we're going through here in Linden and the rest of the country is experiencing. But we're taking first jump. We're shutting down our entire region. And we encourage the rest of the country to join us in this fight. This is not our fight. It's all of us are in the same thing. We know that, Sharon, these people really disrespectful to residents of Linden and Region
Yes,
10.
the disrespectful, the wicked, stink, and dirty. Go on,
I
David.
just said it all.
Sorry.
So tomorrow they plan to carry out their vaccination campaign at Mackenzie High School. So you know what we got to do? We got to give them a warm Linden welcome.
Yeah.
We're going to welcome them.
Yeah.
They know very well that we have our shutdown tomorrow, and they're coming into our space, going against what we're doing, and they want to flex their muscle. Well, we have bigger muscles. We
Presumptuous.
Yeah, we eat a lot of coconut, cassava, and all. So our muscles are big. So we're going to flex our muscle too tomorrow. So, but I want to share this one point before I come off this evening. This struggle is not about the opposition only, right? Or supporters of the opposition. There are members within the PPP or support PPP that is against what their regime is doing. How we need them to stand up too. This is a guidance thing. This is what they're forcing on us. And if you don't believe it's right, if it's against your religion, you have underlying issues, health conditions, and all these things, you speak up. And better believe it that the opposition is here to give support to you. Have a great night. Ensure you stay safe. God bless.
Thanks so much, Stephen. And Jurito, we tie up with you. I think I'll give the last word to Chris because I think he has an activity coming up in Berbice tomorrow. Jurito, go right ahead.
All right, thank you, Sharad. I just want to weigh in a bit on the North schools because I believe as a mother again, I know that we feel there's a saying in Guyana, he who feels it knows it. And I can tell you that we can all relate. Once you have a child out there, you can relate and you understand a nursery school child and the way they are. Coretta spoke about the fact that they expect you to go and drop the child off to the gate and then leave them. I tell you that, Sherrod. Me personally, I don't roll like that when it comes to my children at all. I can't do that. And for children like we know that are going to school for the very first time, you go and drop them off to the gate. No, I'll just stick in this really quickly. When I had my daughter dropped off at nursery school for the very first time, she was miserable for the first 2 days, crying, and the second day she was screaming. I tell you, there's no correctors here as a teacher. I took her out to the school and put her in another school. Because that's how we feel for our children as parents. We want them to be comfortable. We want them to be in a comfortable space. She went to another school and she was so comfortable. That's, my point that I'm trying to get here right now that I'm getting to is that Correct just mentioned that they expect nursery school children to go once a week. For me personally, Sarah, I think I'm getting a very loud feedback. I'm not sure if anybody else is hearing it. Yeah, that's better. No, Karata mentioned that it's going to be from tomorrow. Nurse school children, the first year nurses children are just going to be allowed to go to school for 1 day in the week. And I'll say this as a parent, this is my personal view. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all to send your little child there for 1 day every single week. I know that stage in a child's life, the psychological impact alone of all these regulations, don't touch a friend, don't go near to this person, sit here, keep on this mark, don't touch this, don't touch that, don't share your crayon, I think the psychological impact that it's going to have on these children, it's something way more than we can handle moving forward. And I believe that for those little kids, just keep them home. For God's sake, it's not compulsory for a reason. You can just pick up basic material, little readings here and there, and teach them. Just keep them safe, because at this point in time, we need to preserve children's mental health at that tender age. But I want to close by saying this, Sharon. I read through the actual regulations, and I read about the supermarkets, the store, the private hospital, the banks, the utility companies, and so forth. And I tell you, I've been reading every single article I can find, Sharon, simply because I was looking to see where I may find Gaisuko. Where am I when am I going to see this? When am I going to see the government asking Gaisuko to implement these policies on their workers? I know for me this is what separates the whole issue altogether. When we are not seeing at any point in time the government requiring the Gaisuko workers to be vaccinated, we know that this is purely a political gimmick that they're putting out there. They know that the public servants are in their mass numbers, are supporters of the coalition, and they are targeting them with these draconian policies. When they are leaving, the people that they say they care about, the PUP has gone out there and they have used the sugar workers as their plaster for every single thing. And it is ridiculous at this point in time. If they believe the vaccine is a cure, and if they believe the vaccine is going to remedy everything, why are they not demanding that the people that they say they care so much about to go out and actually be vaccinated? You know why, Sherry? Because they know, vaccinated or unvaccinated, the virus is still there. The virus treats everybody the same, whether or not you have the vaccine. The virus, you can still get the virus, you can still transmit the virus, and they know that whether or not the sugar workers are vaccinated or not, it's going to be the same damn thing. And I think I want to close by say, I just leave it as there. When I see the government going out there and demanding and mandating the Gaisuko workers to be vaccinated, then y'all come and talk to me about every single body else. I don't want to hear it otherwise to that.
Yep. Well said. Very well said. Folks, I'm going to allow you to leave. I know we've gone past the program time a little bit, but I want to keep Chris for a second. Viceroy and MP McDonald and MP Dineshwar Jaiprashad, Finance, thank you guys for joining the program this evening. And again, bringing context and guidance in this issue of these new COVID measures and also the return to school tomorrow. Thank you guys. Christopher,
keep
Viceroy.
Yeah. Keep Viceroy. Yeah. Right. But you said, I'm sure that's why I asked MP Viceroy remains as well too. Because essentially tomorrow an activity, well, a bit different from what is going to be had in Region 10 is going to be had in Region 5. Now, tomorrow will mark 1 year since the gruesome murders of Joel and Isaiah Henry. And of course, all and sundry, the world saw Irfan Ali went to the family's home and he said to the mothers that he will spare, no stone will be left unturned, that he will ensure that the family receive justice for the gruesome murders. 1 year after, the family are still awaiting that. And essentially to mark the 1 year death anniversary, the residents of Region 5 have identified a monument that they will be erecting. And essentially tomorrow at the site where this monument is going to be erected, there will be the turning of the sod. And of course, there will be a gathering because there are some prayers that are going to be had for the family members and so forth. But I'll ask MP Jordan to provide details in terms of what is happening tomorrow.
Great. MP Jordan, go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Sherrod and Chris. Basically, what's happening tomorrow, Sherrod, and for the viewers, there will be a march, well, not march, a drive and ride throughout Region 5 from from Belgium all the way to number 5. We will assemble at the Belgium Bridge, which is known as the Revolution Square, for 2:30. And then at 3 p.m., we will move on. We'll head towards number 5 village. When we get to number 5, there is where we're going to turn the sod at the location that Chris mentioned for the erection of the monument, which will be placed to remember and dedicate to the life of Joel and Isaiah Henry. After that, we'll move to number 5 Community Center Ground, where we will have a time of praise and worship, drumming and prayers for the families. we're expected to have Pastor Paul Schultz, who will lead us in time of great praise. And so the people of Region 5, we have decided that tomorrow will be a day where we will be mourning, continuing, because as Chris would have said, justice, we have not experienced any form.
No stone unturned.
And yes, well, I don't understand when the installed president say no stone unturned. I know from seeing who he is and experiencing for 1 year, it is just bluff. It's just fluff.
Fluff and bluff.
Fluff and bluff. But the thing about it is that we are serious about this, Sherrod. I met with the family as a matter of fact, we met with the family as a team over the weekend, and the family is very much traumatized. Even to now, they're in distress. The parents are still crying. You know, it's difficult to know that we're coming to 1 year and then no justice. And then the thing about it, both mothers actually end up losing 2 sons. But we won't go down that road at this time. What the message here tonight is to all the people.
And I think I heard somewhere that Nigel Hughes might be speaking too. Attorney at Law Nigel Hughes.
Yes, Attorney at Law Nigel Hughes and Executive Director in the Office of the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Aubrey Norton, will be speaking also.
Awesome. Well, I get it. So
I want to invite all the regionals to come out. It will be a day where, as I said before, we will be mourning. And so, like Region 10, we will have taken it in this position. We will not permit any shopping, any school, any work. It is a day for mourning, so we will take the streets, and we will be across Region 5. And so I want to say this: tomorrow is the day where we remember Joel and Isaiah. It is for nothing else. So I urge the businesses, shut your doors. It is a day for us to mourn, and mourn we will tomorrow. Be it rain, be it sun, and even if it snows, we will be mourning tomorrow. I understand also, and I want to say it very quite frankly and clear. I understand that the force is in line at the Fort Wellington police station. We don't care. What we want for the police to understand tomorrow is that we are mourning. And unless we are allowed to mourn, it will not be business as usual in Region 5. So we say to them, don't come to us with any nonsense about COVID-19. And don't come to us with any nonsense.
You didn't go to bad settlement with that.
You didn't go to bad settlement with that.
I think one Shakespeare novel says, one Shakespeare book says, a grieving Rome is a dangerous Rome.
Right, and so I want to make it very clear. Don't come to us with that nonsense, because it will not be business as usual. So tomorrow, all roads lead to number 5 village.
Good. Bell drum first and then number 5.
Bell drum first and then number 5.
Great. Guys,
if you have a bicycle, you ride. If you have
motorcycle,
you ride. Whatever you have, you just you just do it.
It's late night. MP Vince Wright Jordan, I want to thank you guys for joining us, and MP Christopher Jones, our opposition chief whip. Thanks for spending this time. Chris, you almost got your wish. We almost at 11 o'clock. Based on the time that I have already. Almost there, sir. Thank you guys for joining nonetheless. Thank you guys for joining and bringing a lot of clarity to these many issues. Parents got a lot of concerns about this return to school tomorrow, and also these new COVID measures. The public at large got some really grave concerns as it concerns us. Thanks for joining, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, now is the period in the program where I beg for money. I beg for your offering. And as you know, guys, we are expanding, and we are going to have a program on the weekends. It's not going to look anything like this in terms of the set, but I'm just alerting you guys that we are going to have a program that is called The Weekender, in which we come back over the weekend and we kind of distill what has happened over the past week, and also activities and events and information that is occurring and what's the word? Ruminating over the weekend. And we're going to make sense of all of that for you. So we are going to have a program on the weekends called The Weekender. We are still tweaking it. The set is going to look absolutely nothing like this. This is our usual In the Ring set, tweaked a little bit for this particular weekender, but we are going to have an In the Ring weekender, the ITR weekender. Again, aiming at bringing you more information, because we know that you guys want the information. You want to know what is happening in your country. You want to know what is happening in your homeland. But we can only do that, folks, if you come on board and you partner with us. You partner with us. It takes something from us to keep this program going, to produce the program at the kind of quality that we want to do, and to build out this set for the weekend and other programs that we have in mind as well. We invite you guys to come on board and partner with us at the Cash App. We have several platforms available. At Cash App, it's the $ in the ring 592. $ in the ring 592 at Cash App. At PayPal, it's in the ring 592 at gmail.com. That's our PayPal email address, in the ring 592 at gmail.com. And then we're also available at the Indigenous Homegrown MMG system, and we're on the number 627-6963. 627-6963. And if you have any queries, you can contact us on that number on WhatsApp as well, 627-6963. And we're also available on MoneyGram and also via Western Union. Folks, we're asking you to come and partner with us for as little as $5 per month, $10 per month, $15 per month, $20 per month, as low as that, to keep us going, to help us to build this program bigger and better for you. So remember that $5, 10, 15, 20 per month at any one of these mobile platforms that are available to you. Thanks for joining this program, folks. We encourage you guys to continue to share the live stream. Those of you who are going to come back and watch it a little later on, we want to thank you guys for joining. Continue to social distance, continue to wear your mask, and we are getting ready to bring you as part of the offering of the ITR production, the In the Ring production, a brand new program called The Weekender that does almost what we did here this evening and even more for you on the weekends. Help us to do that, along with all the other things we have planned to build out In the Ring. Thanks for joining us. Social distance, wear your mask, sanitize, practice all the COVID-19 protocols that are in place for your health and your safety, that of your friends, family, and loved ones. Have a safe evening, guys, and we're going to see you guys tomorrow. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of the evening.